Welcome to Automate Your Agency. Every week, we bring you expert insights, practical tips, and success stories that will help you streamline your business operations and boost your growth. Let's get started on your journey to more efficient and scalable operations. Having efficient meetings is probably one of the most important things you can do at your company, because the less efficient they are, the more they cost you to have a whole bunch of people on there. So Micah, one of the things that I really love that you really kind of spearheaded developing is a efficient meeting process.
Yes, that's the original title that I came up with to call it the official efficient meeting process. All right, so yes, because I will say in my earlier entrepreneur career, I never calculated how expensive meetings were. Mm-hmm. I just felt like meetings are the way to get things done.
Well, and I when you say it like that, you would, and I'm always the one that's like, I don't want to get on a meeting, but you really love the idea of getting on a call and talking through things, especially early on, where you feel like that's an efficient, good way to talk through things. We're going to jump on, we're going to talk through things, and then we can problem solve and get action items.
Yes, I realized that was how my brain works. I like saying it out loud and I like hearing feedback, so a meeting was like the perfect place.
Yeah.
But there's the difference between just a meeting and a truly efficient meeting.
Yeah.
And I think as you and I have been pursuing our entrepreneurial careers together, we learned a lot about each other. But I am definitely ask me a question and I can answer stuff right away. And you, over the years, I've learned that you are definitely more of a ask me a question, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you, which doesn't work well in meetings.
No, it gives me complete anxiety. I'd shut down. And you just want to keep talking.
Yes, because I want to solve it. Yeah. I want to get through. But because we're so different, we needed to find a way to actually create success.
Yeah, and, too, where this really stemmed from as well is we needed to batch things so that we're not, because there are times we need to get on a call. Yeah. And I don't take that, I do appreciate that time, but we couldn't just jump on a call every day, every time we needed to solve something, unless it was urgent. Of course, like an urgent thing, let's jump on a call and figure out. But for our business, it wasn't always urgent.
Very rarely was it urgent.
Right. And so we needed a better way to put all the different ideas, all the different meetings we wanted to have. Let's get this together in a place, and then we can prioritize.
Yeah. Yep, totally. And, we see this with clients a lot too. So we've helped a wide range of B2B type companies, agencies included, take their meetings and structure them so that they can be a lot more efficient. And especially now with the tools that are available. We're talking about project management tools like Asana, ClickUp, and Monday. There's so much that you can do. Like, you think project management tools, why would that have anything to do with meetings, which is calendars and Zoom?
Right. In person, maybe not like literally in person, but like two people talking to each other live versus asynchronously in a project management tool.
Yeah. And so the crux of the system is essentially more work up front for a meeting, but again, likely to save you 10x the amount of time post-meeting. So let's talk about how things used to work. We used to jump on a meeting with me and you and untold number of other, we got up to over 100 employees, so there could be a wide range of people on this meeting, and the costs could be exponential for this. How much are they getting out of the meeting, et cetera. But we would go in, we'd call a meeting, and that essentially consisted of creating an invite on everybody's calendar, and that was it. That was us calling the meeting. We would give no context, no description, maybe like a title of the meeting, and like strategy meeting.
Right.
So now we're creating anxiety for everybody on the meeting because they have no idea what it's about, what they're walking into, how to prepare for it, no ability to ask questions. And then we start this meeting. And of course, nobody wants to participate because it's interrupting their day.
Right.
And then we get in and we spend most of the meeting talking about the purpose of the meeting.
Right.
I'm sure that has never happened to anybody listening to this. So we're alone in that. But
Right.
just in case that happens to people.
Maybe you can relate some.
Yeah. Maybe this is resonating to a couple people out there.
Right, but it doesn't give people enough time to learn the context and come up with good ideas to offer in it. Or maybe even bad ideas. Like if it's brainstorming, they just need to offer ideas, but you're not giving the person enough time to come prepared to it.
Yes.
And so kind of while we're seeing this happen within our organization, I'd also started hearing little tidbits about how Amazon's leadership meetings run, where they have to write essentially like an internal press release that's very descriptive, and they give time at the beginning of the call for everybody to read through it, take their notes, and that way everybody can be prepared for the real start of the meeting 10 minutes later.
Yep.
And so we started thinking through what that would look like for us to run an efficient meeting. And I'm not a person that likes to really spend a whole bunch of time writing and documenting things. Give me a few bullets. But what I will say is that it has been is so helpful on what are we doing? What kind of decision do we need to make? Is this brainstorming? Is this just like, hey, this is an idea that I want us to think about? And so our process that we use in our project management system is a form that our leadership team fills out. And it answers these questions. What are you looking as an outcome?
And not even the leadership team, anybody that wants to call a meeting.
That's true. Anybody that wants to call a meeting.
If you're going to create a meeting. So I'd like to take just a super quick step back and identify why we chose a project management system to organize this in. And the reason ended up being, we tried a bunch of things, but the reason ended up being is one, it has forms. So we can create a structured way to collect data about a meeting. Two, it's super collaborative.
Yeah.
You can attach files, you can attach notes, you can attach questions. Three, it's action-oriented, which means you're sitting out there and you can say, this meeting is going to happen at this time. And we'll touch on this here in a second, but it also means that you're in the same system that all the action items that need to be produced from the meeting also need to be created in. So you're kind of getting all these benefits for structuring your meetings inside of a project management system, which kind of seems counterproductive. Now, we're still using calendar invites. We're still using Zoom to record the meetings or to have the meetings. And then we use a tool called Grain. There's a couple other competitors out there. It's grain.co or grain.com. I think they both work. But it's a meeting recorder that works with Zoom and Meet and I think a couple others. And it will record the video and the transcript and then makes it all searchable.
Yeah.
And it's
awesome.
Can't live without it.
I know. It even does a summary of the meeting with action items. That's all done by AI. Yep. So it saves so much time at the end.
Yeah. So shout out to Grain.
Yeah.
We love you.
They are not a sponsor.
Not sponsored by
but
Grain.
Could be.
But if you're interested.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's go back to where we were. We start with a form and we have it as a form because then it's structured data.
Yeah. And that way it's structured and we're getting a complete meeting request at every time. We're not missing information.
That's right. Before it was a form, it was like, oh shit, what do we have to, what pieces do I need to fill out? What do I need to summarize for this meeting? And we'd forget important things. Because it's a form, you have all your fields and you just go right down the list. And you're like, what type of meeting is it? What's the topic? What's the urgency? And then we started creating templates for attachments that could be attached to the meeting. So slide decks, and I think both of our favorites is a very simple Google Doc that outlines what are the things that we need to cover in the meeting and why. They're all just question starters, and then we fill it in. We save that and attach that document to the form as we're creating the meeting request. And hit save.
And when you do that, you can have automation built in. So if this is just for leadership, this could be done just on the leadership level. When you submit that request within the form, it automatically assigns a task to the leadership team to review.
Yep.
And so you don't have to manually go do things. Now, maybe somebody on the leadership doesn't need to be a part of it. Then you just remove them off of that.
Totally. And so now we're creating a scenario where a meeting request has been made. Mm-hmm. And all the details, the topic, who's attending, why we're having the meeting, what type of meeting, all of that information is automatically in there. Now, the key is we do this days or sometimes weeks before the actual meeting, if we have time. This means that, let's say we have 8 people on this meeting. Mm-hmm. Everybody on that meeting has time to review the information, has time to process it, and has time to ask questions within the project management system, within the task created for this meeting.
Yeah. Now, that's how we work, and it's been working beautifully. We haven't had any issues, but different orgs work different ways. So it might be the Amazon way where you cut out 20 minutes before when the meeting starts, you already have 20 minutes built in to review this. You set it up how you want to. The way that works for us is that it's usually within at least a week before the meeting. It's typically done. It might be a couple of weeks before. But we also have urgency built into the form where you select urgency. So if it's not urgent and it could wait a couple of weeks, then just that's what happens. It's something that we want to look at in the near future, but we don't need to jump on a call right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's so many times that I think you ask me a question and I'm like, oh, this is urgent. Mm-hmm. But in your mind, it's not. And vice versa. I'll ask you a question and be like, do I need to answer this right now? Is this really urgent? And it was top of mind for me, which made it feel urgent to you. And that's just between the two of us. But if we think about CEO to the other people, to department heads, or department heads to their team, like every time a leader asks a question, or every time a leader holds a meeting, everybody else is going to immediately feel like it's urgent.
Right? And because you want to do a good job, so you feel like they're asking me, I've got to take care of this.
Even client to vendor. If a client asks a question, it feels urgent. Mm-hmm. The only way to combat that, the only way to solve that is what you just identified, Alane, which is add the ability to specify the urgency. Mm-hmm. Is this urgent, or is it low urgency, or is it normal? Is it high? It doesn't matter what the scale is. It just needs to be defined and then have a way to put that in. All right, so now we fast forward. We've got all the information. We've got all the questions pre-asked within the project management system. So dialogue, it's not just that the form gets filled out, 2 weeks go by, and then the meeting happens. There's actually progress being made asynchronously leading up to this meeting so that questions are answered, refinements are made, insight is gathered, and it's because it's collaborative. The entire team that's attending this meeting is all benefiting from these comments happening. Everybody knows what's going in. So you're not then asking duplicate questions or going through anything that's inefficient. So when the meeting actually happens, it's all about whatever the topic is. It's all about productivity, getting the decision made, making the action items that need to happen. There's been times where the meeting was completely skipped because we could go from providing enough information all the way through to creating action items. And because we're in the project management system, the action items,
it's right there. You're already there.
You just create them in the same system. Yeah, so super, super efficient. And we find, wait a second, we didn't even need a meeting.
Yeah. I mean, the efficiency that happens because of this process, it's exponential because even if you might be able to knock out 4 things in a meeting where before you couldn't even get through one.
Yes.
By spending this little extra time thinking about more context, because as your company gets bigger, your context in the things gets less and less. And that was a really hard thing for you and I to wrap our heads around, where our team was large enough where we didn't interact during the day.
No.
And so when I go to ask you a question and you're like, Alane, I have no idea. You legitimately had no idea because my context was completely different than yours during the day. Yes. And you do get to that place where you're not overlapping as much in your company because you've grown so much that's just by nature, that's how it happens. And so by building this system for meetings, you're able to give the context and give it in the same way every time so that you don't miss things.
Yeah. Super valid. Now, there's one side topic to this that I think is kind of interesting with this is when you're trying to work asynchronously or just through comments in, say, a project management system, and things aren't getting, like, you just can't communicate it well in text or in comments. There's the flip side of this, which is like, now it's time for a meeting. But now you're already, you've essentially done what we've talked about the first half of this, or the first part of this episode, is you have all the context, you have all the questions, you tried to iron it out, and now it's time for a quick meeting. And a lot of times that's a 5-minute meeting or a 15-minute meeting with just the people that need to do it. Not the entire team, not the entire department, not the entire, copywriting team, just the 2 people that are going back and forth. When you hit like a thread that has 20 comments, time for a meeting. Let's just get on.
Yeah, it's too much.
And hash it out. Yep. And then you can record it in Grain or record it in Zoom and drop the recording. So the important part of all of this is whether it's a pre-planned meeting or an ad hoc meeting like this just to solve it, take everything that's been decided and create action items back in your project management system.
Yeah, and if somebody was sick that day and they couldn't make the meeting, then you drop that in, they watch it on 2x speed, and they've got everything they need. They can drop in comments for their ideas or additional feedback, and you're golden.
Yep.
All because you use a project management system.
Yeah. So we started this whole podcast episodes ago now of how do you save an hour a day? And I feel like everything that we've talked about could at least save an hour a day. On this topic in particular, there was a client, a very large enterprise client that had 8 business units that I worked with. And I worked with the vice president that covered all 8 business units.
Yeah.
And when we first started working together, he was working with every single leader of each business unit and having separate meetings. And all said and done, what we were able to do was correlate this in a system just like we're talking about, in a project management system. And he was able to get that down from 8 separate meetings in a week to 1 60-minute meeting in a week that covered all 8 business units.
I mean, that's substantial.
Yep. That saved them way more than an hour a day.
Yeah.
And the headache of all of that.
I mean, that is just, it's a time suck, and it's a headache, and it puts more stress on you because there are other things you need to get done in the day.
Yes. Collecting data on what's going on is not the best use of time.
Yeah. All right, Micah, thanks for sharing your meeting expertise.
Yes, we'll have to think of a better name for the official efficient meeting process.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Automate Your Agency. We hope you're inspired to take your business to the next level. We have free content and tools for automating your business at our website, workdayninja.com.
And join us next week as we dive into more ways to automate and scale your business.
Bye for now.